I mean, the question is, when a person is in Yom Kippur and they're going to say they're going to stop doing X, Y, and Z, and they know pretty well they're going to continue doing X, Y, and Z. The question is that better to say that or not so good to say that?
Right. Well, I'm saying, yeah, you got to do the tshuva anyways, right? On Yom Kippur, you have to do the tshuva anyways. It's not, even if you know that you're not going to stop doing what you're doing, right? You still have to do the tshuva. Saying, but it's not going to be a legitimate tshuva, that's all. I think that has to be. That's what Ochas Sadiqim is saying. Yeah. Anyways. All right, we ready? We're on the bottom of Mem Beis and Mem Beis. Yeah, Ibailu. So we're going through all the shilas of Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben Chayre. Right? Right? So the last two shilas that we asked was actually, I'm sorry, we're not in Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben Chayre. Now we're talking about the no man's land between when the Eved gets freed by his boss, but he didn't yet get his documents. He didn't yet get his papers, his walking papers, right? So the previous shaila was, can he eat truma? When he's waiting for his walking papers, can he eat truma or not? Right? Right. So now the next shaila is ibaylahu. 6 lines up in the bottom. So ibaylahu, they had a shaila. Eved shemachru rabbi leknas. Machar or ain't machar, right? Now I don't know exactly what kind of gambling this is that the Gemara is talking about, but basically he's selling his slave that if the slave gets killed by a shar, then the recipient is going to get to keep the money. Right? Meaning, I'm going to go over to my friend and buy his slave, but I'm not buying his slave. He's going to keep the slave, right? But I get, if there's going to be knas money, then I get to keep the knas money. So basically, I'm gambling that some shor somewhere out there is going to gore this guy's slave, and I'm going to get to keep the money. I can't imagine that's worth so much, right? So machar ain't a machar. Okay, ibaylu evet shemachar rabbi leknas. His master sold over knas. Is he sold or is he not sold? Ibaylu rameir, ibaylu rabbanon. It's a shayla according to rameir. It's a shayla according to rabbanon. Ibaylu rameir, meaning because rameir holds davar sha'olam. A person can buy something that's not yet in this world. So again, it's a question on rameir. Ad kan like rameir adam makr davar sha'olam. This that rameir says that a person could purchase something that didn't come into the world. Elo, if you go and pay his dekel, like fruits of a palm tree. Davidi dasa. We know it's going to create fruit. At least the assumption is that a tree creates fruit every year. So Mamela, he's going to, he can sell his fruit that's going to grow on the tree in the middle of the winter. He says, by the way, do you want to have first dibs? Do you want to have first dibs on the palm tree? And he could do that because the assumption is it's going to create fruit. Who says that this guy's Eved is going to be gored? And even if he said that it will be gored, who says that the guy's going to have to pay? Right on top of maybe he's going to be Maida, right? We know the rule in Shas is Maida b'knas is Potter. So if a guy is Maida, then he's Potter. So how do you know? Meaning so many ducks have to fall into a row in order for you to be able to collect this knas money. How could you possibly say that that's going to be a purchase? So therefore, this Gemara,
doesn't everyone agree that you could sell Dekala Peresa?
What do you mean?
Why does the Gemara only say according to Rameir? Everyone holds you could sell the Paris of a tree. It's not that Rishon B'Elam. You're selling the tree for its Paris, no?
What do you mean? You say that's what Dover Shabbat is, right?
No, well, if you sell the pairs themselves, but wouldn't we be talking about where you're selling the Evid itself for the Kana? I mean, like if you sell that pair, the tree for its pairs, wouldn't everyone agree that that's not Dover Shabbat because the tree is here itself?
No, but the assumption, I guess well, we're going to say the other side in a second. I mean,
But I'm just saying, even in the
saying.
case of Paris itself, there's everyone would agree if you sell the tree for its Paris, it would be considered a Dover Shabbat.
No, what do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying.
By the case of Dekala Peresa, wouldn't that be Lukuli Alma? Why are we only saying this is a case of Paris Dekel? Why don't we say this is a case of Dekala Peresa? If you're selling the Evid for it's Paris.
What Paris?
The future Knas.
But so many things have to happen in order for that.
Okay,
Knas
fine.
to come.
That's fruit also have a tzad natu. My point is, it's not only according to a mayor. No, but my point is not only according to a mayor. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it has to be Rameh because the other sheet holds you're not even kind of at all.
You can't sell the other sheet. You can't sell Dekala Peresa.
No, I don't think so.
No? I always assume Dekla Peresa is Dover Shabbat because you're selling a tree for its Paris.
You mean it's called Dover Shabbat?
It's the tree is here. If you sell the Paris themselves, I agree, but the Dekla for its Paris, I thought you were selling the actual Evid because Evid's here. You can't just sell a Knas by itself. Can you? I mean, I don't know.
Isn't it? It's a. I don't know. There is a machlokes in Rameir. There is a machlokes in Rameir. What Rameir means, I'm not sure if that's going to make a difference to what you're saying. But anyway, so that's one side. V'tibai is ending one. So v'tibai, we're on the top line now. V'tibai l'Rabbanon, and it's a kash on the Rabbanon, a shaila on the Rabbanon. Adkan like the Rabbanon, meaning the Rabbanon say that you're not kind of something that's not in this world. Ain't no the mak the dover shalom elolam. Look, you're going Paris dekel the hashtem. You're less to. You can't go selling the fruit that's going to come off your tree because right now they don't exist. Here, there's a shar. It's in this world, the shar. There's an evid in this world. They're here. Good. You're saying that it's the chances of them hooking up with each other are slim, but the bottom line is they're both in this world. So, and we could say, well, I'm going to buy the chances of you that this shar is going to go gore this thing. But so what's the din? So that's the shaila. So Amar Rav Abba, so the Gemara has a long raya to what a Gemara wants to say. Now, Amar Rav Abba, Tashma, Yelid bias. Right, so we know as a hakdama before we do this next Gemara that there's two types of slaves. There's a slave that you purchase, that's called miknas kesef because you bought the slave, and then you have somebody who's Yelid bias, which means that the slave was born into your house, meaning he was born to another slave. So Tashma v'yilid bias, matam loymar. What is it coming to teach? Im kinyan kesef oichel. If a slave that you buy is allowed to eat truma, yilid bias like kol shekain. So of course, if the slave is born into your family, meaning your eved that you own had a baby, isn't it a kol shekain? So, but that's the case. If that's the case, I would say ma kinyan kesef sheyesh b'shava kesef oichel. The kinyan kesef, meaning a slave that you buy, has to be worth something. Meaning the slave has to be worth something, which we'll see in a minute what that is. So then a slave that was born into your house also needs to be worth something. And then how do you know that even if it's worth nothing, it would still be able to eat truma, right? Which Rashi says, what does it mean? Is he worth nothing? He's a mukashchin, right? So meaning he has all sorts of skin diseases or whatever it is. So I guess nobody wants him, so he's worthless. Yelid bias, it's a Yelid bias, become right? Meaning the Yelid bias, a slave born into your house could eat truma regardless of whether he's worth something or not. Okay, then the Gemara says on the flip side, now I'm going to say Yelid bias. So a slave that's born into your house, right? Whether he's worth something or he's not worth something, he could eat truma. Kinyan kesef, right? But a kinyan kesef, yesh by shava kesef oichel. But a slave that you bought, so if he's still worth something, he could eat your truma. If again, obviously, if the boss is a kohen, if he doesn't have shava kesef, he can't eat it. The pasuk says a slave that you bought and a slave that was born. My yilid bias, just like a yilid bias. The one meaning an eved that's born in your house, even though it's worth nothing, you can eat the truma of kinyan kasbay. Even though it's not worth anything, you can eat it. Fine. So bottom line is the Gemara is saying that that the avodim could eat the I already lost track of myself. Meaning the Gemara at the end is saying that they could both, whether they're worth or whether they're not worth, they could eat truma. So, okay, so what's the raya to our shaila? Again, our shaila was, can you buy the knas? Can you buy the potential knas that an eved may receive? Can you buy that off somebody? And if you think that an eved that gets sold by his master for a knas can sell it, is there such a thing as a slave that can't be sold for a knas? Meaning every slave, basically Gemara's kasha is, every slave is worth something for the knas. I mean, let's say you have a slave that nobody wants to buy. He's got boils and he's told nobody wants, he's got no market value whatsoever, the slave. But then you get lucky and when the slave is standing outside, a shark comes and gores him. Now you could collect the knas money. So every slave is going to be worth something. Elamai must be that you can't sell a slave for knas. And therefore, then the Gemara makes sense. That means that there is a possibility that a slave is worth nothing. So the Gemara says, there is such a thing. There is such a thing as a slave that, because Ika Eved Treifa, there's an Eved who's treif. Meaning if this guy, for whatever reason, we know that he's treif, meaning he's not going to live out the year. So the din is, and we had this on the Shavuos night shir about organ donor, that if somebody kills somebody who's treif, then he's potter, right? Because he's killing somebody who's treif is as if he's dead, so he's potter. So maybe if you have an eved who gets gored by a cow, but that eved was a treifa, so then there's going to be no knas. So it is there is a possibility that an eved can taka get nothing, right? Meaning he's worthless because he's ugly or he has skin disease or whatever it is. Nobody wants to buy him, and he's also treif, so he's worthless. So when it says "V'chazi lemekom kamei," but why should he be worthless? Even though he's a treifa, he could stand in front of his owner, right? He could help him out or something. So Gemara says, "But we're talking about where he's disgusting and he's a mukashchin, or a mukashchin, or both. Meaning nobody wants to stand in front of him. So this guy has the worst of both worlds. So that's what the Gemara is saying. In that situation, a slave is worth nothing. So therefore, we don't have a proof either way whether a guy could sell his slave in order to collect on the potential knas. Fine. Next shaila, boilahu. Yeah, so then we get into a whole, and now we're back to chatzi eved, chatzi ben chayrin. Right, so we said that a chatzi eved, chatzi ben chayrin is not allowed to get married to anybody. Can't get married to a ben chayrin because he's a slave, he's half slave. And he can't get married to a eved because he's half free. So what does he do? So misha chatzi eved, chatzi ben chayrin, shekidish bas chayrin. So let's say this guy did. He wasn't supposed to, but he went and he married a woman who's free. All right, so Mao, what's the din? Are they married? They're not married. Right? So imtim to loymar ben yisrael shomer lebas yisrael. So now the Gemara goes through a couple of different other options. If you're going to say, if you have a ben yisrael, meaning a regular yid, shomer lebas yisrael.
The kids are not mamzerim. The kids are good kids, we kosher kids. Whatever that means by an eved, but they're not mamzerim because it's it's an interesting child. Okay, driving.
What you mean? Okay, we'll get to that in the Taisus, right? That's what we were discussing yesterday, stuff. Yeah. So anyway, so the Gemara says, "Imtim tzleimer ben Yisrael sha'amar lebas Yisrael." What about the case where a regular yid tells a regular yidna, right, A male tells a female, "Hiskachi lechatzie, let me you marry half of me." So then she's married, right? Why? The chazi lekule. Because why is she married to him, even though he only gave half of himself to her, right? Because she could theoretically marry him completely. Right now, she's only married to half of him, but she could theoretically marry all of him, right? But here, here, by the slave, he's not roy to marry all of her because, or she's not able to marry all of him because it's only the free part of him that she can marry to. She cannot marry the Eved part of him, right? So therefore, that shaila wouldn't be the same. Ben Yisrael Makadosh Chatzi Isha, and even if you go with, not even, but if you go with a case of a Yisrael who's Makadosh half of a woman, and there we say she's not married, so the Shire B'Kinyanai, because he has left over in the Kinyan, right? Meaning he wasn't kind of her completely, but the Eved, like Shire B'Kinyanai, but the Eved, there's nothing left. He was kind of half the woman, right? And meaning the half of him that's mutter, right? Is he married? It's married completely, right? Meaning he did whatever he could do. Meaning in the case of a Ben Yisrael that Mekadosh half a woman was saying there's no Kiddushin. Why? Because there's leftover things for him to be kind of. But here there's nothing left to be kind of. Whatever the half of him, which is free, that got engaged, that got married to this woman, is doing whatever he can. So therefore, that we have a shaila according to all opinions. So Tashima, again, so the basic shaila is if this half Eved, half free guy decides to marry a free woman, is the marriage a good marriage or not? So Tashima, him is Misha Chetze Eved Chetze Ben Chayrin, right? If this is back yesterday's daf, if an ox killed somebody who's a Chatze Eved Chetze Ben Chayrin, nice and Chatzi Knas l'Rabbi. So what does he do? He gives half the Knas to the owner that still owns half of the Eved, v'chatzi koifer liyarshav, and half of the koifer goes to the Yarsham. Koifer goes when an ox gores an Eved, so the Eved gets a Knas, gets the 30, but when an ox gores a free person and he kills him, then he gets whatever the worth of the guy is, goes to the guy, and obviously goes to his inheritors. So we're saying here that when the guy's Chatzi Eved Chatzi Ben Chayrin, so the half the Knas goes to the master and half the Knas and the Chatzi Koifer goes to the Yarsh. Amr Kedusha Vlav Kedushin. And if you say that he's not married, right, Rachamim, this is for you, right? If he says that the Kedushin not a Kedushin, Yarshim in Ali, how do you have Yarshim? Meaning if they're not married, how does this Eved ever have Yarshim? Right? Zev, right? We discussed it yesterday. Right? That we say, how is it possible? The guy's not allowed to get married. If he's saying the guy's not allowed to get married, how does he have Yarshim? Right? We'll get back to this in a second. So the Gemara is proving, since he clearly has Yarshim, it must be that his marriage is a good marriage. So the Gemara answers, so treifa. What happened was the ox didn't kill him. It just made him a treifa. Right? So since he only made him a treifa, there's no koifer. So my Yarshav, okay, so then what is the Yarshim then? Nafshe, Yarshav means himself. He gets paid for whatever he got damaged. The price that the Eved got damaged goes, Yarshim means himself, right? Which is a shtickle of Doichik Teretz, which is what Rava asked. I'm a Rava, state Chubas L'Dover. There's two questions, really, two answers, but it means questions. Chada, the Yarshav Ketani, it says Yarshav, right? It doesn't say he himself, meaning how can you translate Yarshav to mean his inheritors? Yarshav means he himself. But Kaifer, right? And not only that, but it's Kaifer. Kaifer ein mishtalam ela la'achar misa. Kaifer doesn't get paid until after he dies, right? So therefore, it can't be that it's talking about to himself. He's still alive, right? So for two reasons, Yarshim cannot be himself. What it means is that the Yarshim should theoretically inherit his Kaifer, half his Kaifer, But he doesn't have Yarshim because he wasn't allowed to get married to anybody, so he doesn't have Yarshim. So Gemara is saying, theoretically, if he had Yarshim, they would get half. Right? Now going back to this kasha. So Gemara wants to bring a raya that this guy can't have Yarshim because it's against halach of him to get married to anybody. So which Tosfos says, what kind of kasha is that? What does Yerusha have to do with whether you're allowed to marry somebody? A guy gets out of wedlock, right? A guy out of wedlock, right? Wedlock means they never got married, right? Has kids. They don't yarshin him? Of course they yarshin him, right? The Gemara seems to be bringing a raya that he has yarshim, must be he was legitimately married. What does one have to do with the other, right? So Tosfos basically says that if he would not, the Gemara is thinking that if it wasn't a kedushin, meaning how do you know that he's the father? Getting back to the age-old question is how does anybody know that he's the son of his father? Right? So we said Roi Bila Sachar Abal. I think this is what Tosfos means, right? Because we say the majority of relationships happen with the husband, so we go with the majority, right? But here, where the guy wasn't legitimately married, so can you say that the Roi Bila Sachar Abal? How do you know? How do you know that they're the ones to yashin him? Maybe somebody else came along and was mizana with this. Meaning, these people are not getting the Tzaddik of the Year award, right? So how do you know the yichus? Right. So, anyways, fine. So that's basically Tosfos Shak L'Tayim. Fine. So Omar Rava. So Rava said, now we get into. So what's the bottom line here? It's the same way if a guy marries half a woman, it's not Mekadesh, ain't Kedushin. So if a guy marries, meaning a regular Yisrael marries a woman who's half freed and half a slave, right? So that's also, the Kedushin is not a Kedushin. And he says the same thing. The same way that if a man marries a half a woman, she's not married, they're not married. A woman who's half free and half owned, should have kedushin, ain't a mekadeshes. So I mean, who says you can compare the two cases? Hasam shire b'kinyana. There, like we said before, when a guy marries a half of a woman, he left over half a woman that he didn't purchase. So how can they be married to each other? But here, the man that's marrying, meaning the free man that's marrying this half slave, this female half slave, he's not leaving over anything. He married whatever it is that he could be married. So you can't compare the two cases. So Hadar Oikim Rav Bar Huna Hamayra Alei B'Darash. So Rav Bar Huna changed his mind. Right? Again, Rav Bar Huna darshan that it's not a good marriage. So then Rav Bar Huna appointed an Amayra. Right? Now Amayra means back then he was like the translator, and he belted it out. Meaning the Amayra they're not the Amayra, Rav Archana, whoever was giving the shir would say it over to him, and he would announce it out. It says, yeah.
Is she really? But if she still has half her guf that she could be, if she's still a chatzi shivcha, then you're able to be kind of. Then could her other half be married to somebody else, to a slave, I guess.
What are you saying?
If you're saying he's mekadesh the full woman, could her other half be? Could her other half be mekadesh to be with what's it called? Evi Kanani?
You mean if you hold that that the kedusha works?
Mekadesh full guf. How does that make sense? She's mekudeshes to you. If she's still a tzad shivcha to her, that means she's not fully mekudeshes to you.
At least, yeah. No, I'm saying it's. What do you want to say? You want to say she's half married? You want to say she's half married?
I understand you're not shara b'kinyana, but she's not fully mekudesh you. That's not kedushin.
That's not kedushin.
Kedushin mekudeshes. The type of mekudeshes is she's mekudesh, meaning she's set aside. She's mekudesh from everyone else. That's not true here. Even if you're mekadesh, you're only mekadesh. It's not just about kinyan. It's also about her being Mekudeshes. And she's not Mekudesh. Half her guf is still could be with Eved Kanani.
Right, but he has the ability to be Mekadesh her other half.
Why? He's not
Why not?
actually being Mekadesh her. She's
He
not
can.
Mikudeshes.
He's Mekadesh half of her, right? So we're
Right.
saying he still has the potential to marry the other half. But he
No,
didn't.
we're saying
So
Loy
how can
Shire
you say-
B'Kinyonai.
No, but a Chatzi, we talking about the Chatzi Eved or the
Chatzi
woman?
Shivcha. The Gemara says it's
Chatzi
not Shire
Shivcha.
B'Kinyonai.
So Chatzi Shivcha, right? Because he did everything that he could.
But the Indian of Kedushin is not just about Kenyan, it's also about Kedushin being Mekadisher, that she's set aside, that she's usher to everyone else. She's not usher to everyone else. She still is a Chatzi Guf that's mutter to Eved Kanani. So you did the Kenyan
So you stop
properly.
asking that you didn't answer to everybody else.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
Which is a key
I hear.
component of Kedushin.
Right. No, I hear. Unless we say that she can't get married to a Kanani because the other half of her. But you're saying you're splitting it in half. So
Yeah.
So right.
Memanoshach.
I hear the kasha. Very good. Very good. I hear the
You could say
kasha.
the same way. Maybe what if she was already half Mekudesh from the Eved Kanani? The Eved
You're not
Kanani.
Same question. That'll be the same question. Same question.
Right.
Yeah. I hear.
It's
That's a good question.
It's very, very
Yeah.
cute question.
Very good. Very good. I guess those that are upstate are masking to the question. Yeah. The clear ear. I guess Akiva has some. Anyway, so Hadar
I'm
Akim
still
Rabba
for
Huna. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have the clear ear, even though you're not in the country. So Rabbi Bar Huna went and it said basically he took it back. It says V'machshela zois tachas yadecha. And it says a michshol, right? A stumbling block. That's is this stumbling block is under your hand, which means like this. Ein adam aimed al divrei. This is an important line here. Ein adam aimed al divrei Torah. A person will not be aimed on divrei Torah, meaning a person is not going to get the understand the Torah elim kein nichshol behen unless he trips up with them. Right? You hear what he's saying? Is an unbelievable thing, because does that mean he's not at fault? He's basically saying that the way to understand fully the Torah is to first get tripped up by not understanding it correctly, and then you get fixed up by your friends and Rebbeim, and then you have pshat. It sounds like he's saying that the derech to understand things is to first botch it. It's a big chizik to kids who fail tests, etc., these type of things, right? You tell them, listen, the real way to understand Torah is to first fail, and then you do better. I said by myself, there's certain shilas that I will ever remember in my head. At least I think forever. You never know that when I botched it, right, or I didn't think that this would be the right thing, and then I looked into it or spoke it over to people, and they said, no, this is a pshat, and Mamela, I at least I think I remember those things, right? But anyway, so that's what he's saying. So he changed his mind. He said, even though they said that a person who marries a half of a woman, right, is not mekudesh. But a woman who's half freed and half slave, and she gets married to somebody, her kedushin is kedushin. My timer, like we said, hasam shire b'kinyonai. There's the lady he left out half the woman, so therefore the kedushin is not kedushin. Hacha loy shire b'kinyonai. But here he didn't leave over. He married whatever he could marry. Fine. So he changed his mind and he said the kedushin does work. Amar Rav Sheshes, kashem shemekadosh chatzi isha eina mekudeshes. Rav Sheshes says the same way you mekadosh a half an isha, it doesn't work. Chatzi shiva chatzi ben pas chayrin sheneskacha ein kedusha kedushin. Her kedushin is not a kedushin. Right. So he's saying he's disagreeing. Bim lach shechadam leimer. If a person literally means if a person is going to whisper to you and say ezi shivcha charufa, who's a shivcha charufa, which we had twice already. Shivcha Harufa means basically she's a Shivcha who's meant to be married to an Eved Ivri, right? And then somebody is Mazana with her. So what is a Shivcha Harufa? So Zu Shechetzi Shivcha V'Chetzi Ben Chpas Chayrin. She's half a Shivcha, she's half free. Hamurasa levet ivri. She's engaged to an evet ivri. Alma basis rusehi. So you see, how do you have this case? She's a half slave, she's half freed, and she's engaged to an evet ivri. How do you have that? Elamai, somebody who's half slave, half freed, is allowed to get engaged. So if that's what you're going to whisper, Amar Loi. So meaning, and Rav Ashi said you can't do it. So it's a kasha Rav Ashi. Amar Loi klachet Rabbi Shmuel. Go to Rabbi Shmuel. Shu Aimer b'shivcha kananas amurasa levet ivri. He disagrees. Rabbi Shmuel says that the case of shivcha charufa is talking about a shivcha kananas fully, who's engaged to an evet ivri. Shivcha kananas basis rusehi. Can a shivcha kananas even get engaged? It's no good. You can't marry an evet ivri. A Jewish slave is not allowed to marry shivcha kananas. She's not Jewish. Elamayas cholamema. My muresas miyuchedes. So it must be that the translation of the word muresas doesn't mean that they're engaged. It means that they were meyachid, meaning they were appointed. That's what's going to be. Hachanami, my muresas miyuchedes. 1 second. Hachanami, what I just finished saying. Hachanami, my muresas miyuchedes. So here too must be that muresas means miyuchedes, and they never really were engaged. So therefore, it's not a kash on me. Rav Ashi is saying that I'm telling you that the engagement doesn't work for the half freed woman and the half eved woman, and you're going to say to me, but you have this case of shivcha charufa, where a guy sleeps with a shivcha who is marrying an eved ivri, and we said that that's talking about a chatzi eved chatzi mechar. He says, no, I go with Rabbi Shmuel in that case, who says it's not a half freed, half slave woman. It's all about a regular shivcha kananis. But it says engaged, and they're not allowed to get engaged. He says engaged doesn't mean engaged. It just means that the shidduch was read, that eventually, once she gets freed, she'll be able to get married to this guy. Okay, fine. What do you want to say, Akiva?
Isn't nowadays the gabe goyim? Aren't the shav mitzvahs b'nei still negating them? It's at the din of gider rice. And if there's if like Rashi says, I'm a daim lechamor, and there's no real kedushin by them, how would they ever have adultery when it comes to a guy? If the Gemara is just saying it's a chumer ba'alma that you can't, if she's miyachid with you, she can't. There's no actual kedushin. So then, and there's no. Where's the Indian of gider rice then? Whenever there's a din of a guy.
Again? What do you mean? You stop. What do you mean?
The din of Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach applies to Goyim, and one of those is Gilei Rais. But if there's no Indian of Kedushin Lagabe Goyim, then where would Gilei Rais ever apply? If it's just a Chumrah Ba'alma that because she's miyachid with him, you have to bring an Asham. So then there's no Indian of real Gilei Rais.
Yeah, so that's really those sugis in Sanhedrin of about do you really, what does it mean that goyim even have arayas? Because they do. Right. That's one of the 7 mitzvahs b'nei noach. So does it go according to their laws, not their laws? Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the Gemara comes out there, but there certainly is the arayas based on, I don't remember exactly.
So why is the Torah only answering her mitzvah the din of? I'm saying whatever this, it might not be kedushin in the halachic sense, but it's not any. Is it any worse than whatever the arise is agabe goyim? Or maybe it's only because he's a yid. Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Okay, so now
there's a different einish by Shifra Charufa.
That's exactly what I'm asking.
She gets malchus.
I know that,
right.
But the goyim wouldn't it be usher? Wouldn't that be a einish?
Yeah. So what are you saying, Rav Dov? So you're saying that it's not. So you're saying that it's not a legitimate znus.
I'm not saying any. I'm just saying that the halacha is different than a regular znus. There's punishment.
Right,
which is what I'm asking. Why is it any worse than the goyim gilei arayis if you're doing the same thing effectively?
Right. Yeah. I hear.
Meaning, wouldn't this be a case where the punishment for the yid is less than the punishment for the guy, like the classic, like we said?
Well, the guy that has the relationship with the Shifra Harufa has to bring a nosh, he has to bring a carbon.
Right, but in the case of
Yeah,
Gila
she has to
Hayes,
get Malkus,
you'd
he
be
brings the
Chayiv
carbon.
Misa. A guy would be Chayiv Misa.
Really, okay, yeah.
So this is a case where a guy is punished, a yid is punished less than a guy.
Yeah, it's possible. And then you get to the whole Mika Midi.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's interesting how do we paskin this?
We have other
Right.
cases where it's more machmer by a goy. If you eat basamina chai, if you take a goy is chayiv misa, you're chayiv malchus. So that's that's not a chiddush to say it's
Well then, right.
more formal by a goy, but that's no chiddush.
Right, you have the abortion issue too, right? For them it's worse than for us.
I mean, it is
Right.
a chiddush. That's the Taisus mushes with this. That is
Correct,
a chiddush.
correct. That's true. That is true. So, anyways, the way the Shulchan Aruch paskins it, is that the Shulchan Aruch says, and Even Ezra says that if a guy wants to be mekadosh himself to half a woman, I'm sorry, if he is mekadosh half of himself, yeah, so then that kedushin is a kedushin, right? But the chatzi eved the chatzi, what do you call it? I'm looking for it now. It's a suffix kedushin. I don't know why I'm not finding it now. He says it's a suffix kedushin, right? So therefore, you'd have to be machmer both ways. Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, I think the Rambam goes one way, meaning you have two situations. You have the man who's a chatzi marrying a free woman, and then you have a free man marrying a woman who's chatzi ben. So by one of them, the Rambam says the kedushin works, and by the other one, he says it doesn't work. Of course, I don't remember which way he says it. Okay, bye. The Amar of Chisda. The second line from the bottom. Chatzi shivcha v'chatzi. Now we get into some yavamas. Yeah, so chatzi shivcha v'chatzi bascharin. So that's again, she's a half-half. Sheneskacha l'Ruven. She got married to Ruven. Okay. Then v'nishtachra. Then she got freed. Okay. So now when she was a half-eved, she married Ruven. Then she got freed. The chazav v'niskacha l'Shimon. Then she went. It was Mekadesh to Ruvain's brother, Shimon. So now, who is she married to? It could be she's married to Ruvain. It could be she's married to Shimon. It could be she's married to both. Right? Sort of, Akiva, what you were saying. There is that possibility that she's married to both. Umesu Shneim, and then they both die without kids. So what's the din? Misyavemes to Levi. She could be Misyavemes to Levi. See on Beis. What's a shot here? And I'm not going to we don't call her the wife of two Mason. Now, the wife of two Mason, if the Olam remembers from Yivamas, she does not get Yibum. Right? Wife of two Mason is basically if her husband dies, right? If her husband dies, then the brother's supposed to do Yibum. What he does is Mimer. Mimer is like that right, he tells her that meaning that brother says he's going to marry her, then he dies too. So now she needs Yibum from two husbands. In that case, there's no Yibum done. So here too, maybe she has two husbands, Reuven and Shimon. Right? So the Gemara says no, she doesn't have two husbands. Why? Because Manavshah, either way, Kedushin to Reuven Kedushin. If Reuven's Kedushin was a good Kedushin, Kedushin Shimon Lav Kedushin. Then Shimon's is nothing, right? Because if somebody marries a married woman, there's the Kedushin, there's no marriage there. He Kedushin, the Shimon Kedushin, and if Shimon's Kedushin was a Kedushin, the Reuven Lav Kedushin, then the first one wasn't a Kedushin. So in Mother Shach, she's only married to one of them. So therefore, Levi, the third brother, can do Yibum. Fine. Now the Gemara says another similar case, but not brothers. Yeah.
It's mashma that the first Kedushin was a full Kedushin. According to the Shita that holds, if you marry a Chatzi Shifcha, Chatzi Bascharin, it's a full Kedushin. It's not like she leaves over anything. However that works, I don't know how that works in Lamdis, but it's mashma, if you hold that it's a Kedushin, it's a full Kedushin, she's also to everyone else. Even though half her body is a Shifcha.
You're saying that she can't marry anybody else.
Correct, because he wasn't Mishai or anything besides Shimon being able to marry her.
I hear. That's a good point. Yes, because meaning there is a marriage there. Yeah. Okay, good. Itmar. So we have a similar case, but not exactly. Same case as this one, but they're not brothers. Itmar. She got married to Reuben. And Reuben, and then she was freed. Shimon, and then she went and married Shimon. And Rashi says Shimon was not a brother. Right? So Rav Yosef Bar Chama Omer Rav Nachman Paku Kiddushay Rishon. He says the first Kiddushin is gone. Right? Once she was freed, then her first Kiddushin was gone. And therefore, when she married Shimon, it was a legitimate marriage. Why? So Rashi says, because once she's freed, she's a new body. She's Nishtana Gufa. And she's like a Katan Shanoila. Very interesting. Right? Again, she was married. She's half freed, half slave. She married somebody. And then that person freed her, or whoever, her boss freed her. She's considered a new entity, and the whole Kiddushin is gone. No, the first man, the first Kiddushin is complete. Why? Meaning when she gets freed, her that half of her that was available goes automatically to the first guy. Right? Right, which is interesting. That means the original Kiddushin, without that husband, that first husband doing anything, automatically takes over her body. It's mashma that theoretically, had her body, had she been available, he would have married her whole body. He just didn't because he couldn't do it. So it happens automatically. Okay, so that's a machlokes.
Both Terutzim are Chedushim. Both of them are
They are.
She's a new person, just like Ger Misgayer, because he cut Shanola Dami, and a totally new person, and the other is already there, and it's
right. Yeah,
what was there.
You're saying it's two total opposites. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but they're
very
both good. The Chedushim.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, it's true. Okay, so Amar Rab Zera. So Rab Zera says, "Kavasei di mistavra." Seems to be I'm correct. Again, he's the one that says the first guy's kedushin is kedushin. Yosiv la yumsu. Right, we said by the case of Shifcha Charufa, that they don't die. Right, la yumsu ki loy chupasa, because she was never freed. Right, that's what Reb Dov was saying before. She gets malchus. All she gets is malchus. Why? Because she wasn't freed. Mashma ha chupasa. Had she been freed, and then the guy would have slept with her, Yumsa, she would die. Right? Why? Must be that she gets that marriage kicks in. That marriage kicks in. So Reb Zera says it seems like him, that's pshat. So then, but Abaya says no. According to Rabbi Shmuel, who we said on Amar Aleph, that he says meaning your whole raya Reb Zera is because he says that this case of Shifcha Charufa is talking about where the Shifcha was half sold and half free, right? But according to Rabbi Shmuel, who says it was talking about a full out Shifcha Kananis who was engaged with Eved Ivri, by there too, if she would have been freed, they would die? Of course not. There's not a marriage, right? She was an Eved Kanani. It's not a marriage. It must be she was freed and then she went and got remarried to the guy. Meaning she didn't get remarried. She's married to the same guy, but she had to redo the kedushin. Here too, we're not going to say that the marriage automatically took over the other part of her body. No, we're going to say that she got herself engaged. Fine. Amar Rav Huna, but now here we go with this next Gemara. I'm having a hard time understanding this Gemara. Amar Rav Huna, not that I'm not having a hard time understanding other Gemaras, but here. So Amar Rav Huna bar Katin Amar Rav Yitzchak Ma'isa Be'isha Achas. There was a woman shechetzi shivach of chatzi v'schayim. She was half free and she was half a slave. Bekafa was Rabbah. Basa baschayim. They forced her master to make her free. We had this 2 blot ago or 3 blot ago where the man was a half a eved and half free. Here, the Gemara is saying where she was half Eved, half free, you have to free her. Now, again, we had said that the reason why the man, right in the Mishnah, why do you have to make the man free? According to Beis Shammai, so that he can go get married and have children, right? So the Gemara is saying, so why are we forcing her? She doesn't have a chiyuv to have children. So the Gemara says, Kiman, Ki Rabbi Yochanan ben Braika must be going according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Braika. Damar al shneim hu omer, on both, meaning on man and woman. It says vayivarech oisam elikim vayomer, and then how does it say vayomer lahem elikim pru revu meluas haaretz. So he must be going to Rabbi Yochanan ben Braika, who holds that the woman is also chayiv in pru revu, and that's why we free when she's half freed and half what he called, we have to free her because she has a mitzvah to have kids too, which is obviously, I don't know, it's obvious, but we all know that that's not the way we paskin. We paskin that the man has the mitzvah pru revu and the woman does not.
Yaakov, when people get up for the kala, when she shows up, when she comes into the chuppah, isn't that the whole ending to get up for her mitzvah, the fact that she's doing a mitzvah? So what would, if we don't pass in that way, what's the mitzvah that she's doing?
So she's, first of all, not everybody says you should stand up for the kala when she comes in. That's A. B, many hold you should not. B is that she has the question is does she have a chiyuv or does she have a mitzvah? She certainly has a mitzvah to have children, right? Because she's at the minimum, she's doing a mitzvah helping out her husband, right? But the question is
the first round in Kiddushin.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Ran and Adorim, but okay. But yeah. So and right, so she's facilitating a mitzvah, right? It's a fascinating thing, right? You have a woman who has the children. She's not mechuyev in pru revu. She's right, but she's not mechuyev in it. So I was doing a little. I don't have svarim here, so I listened to Rabbi Rosner to see what he had to say on this. And he brought this a few blot ago also. He brought the Meshech Chachma, who tried to explain that the reason why we pass that women are not chayiv and pru revu is because, what's the pasuk again? That mitzvahs are supposed to be pleasant. What's it called? Right? That Hashem does not give mitzvahs that are painful. So Mamela, since women have a lot of pain during childbirth, Hashem cannot be mechayiv them. Hashem cannot be mechayiv them to.
So it's kaidem achet. There was a mitzvah pru revu inside the isha.
Oh, yeah. The what?
Kaidem achet. There's a mitzvah pru revu even inside the isha.
Oh, so there's some diyukim. Somebody says diyukim in the psukim. That kaidem achet, that the lashon in the psukim is different from when it was after the mabul. I don't remember, but the lashon, the terminology changes. But that's basically his pshat. The big kasha is from Mila, right? Mila's painful, right? So you say that because you don't remember. No, the kid's not a yid. The kid's when he only becomes a yid. I mean, obviously he's a yid, but he only becomes a full-fledged yid once he is Gemal, right? So you can't, right? If Shlomo Zalman Auerbach holds that like this,
she's not married.
Oh, we have a Mishnah that's verkehrt. We have a Mishnah verkehrt from that.
Why?
Because it says, Anoid Mena Orla is Mutab Areli Yisrael. So you see that even if a yid never had a bris, he's still called a Yisrael.
Yeah,
right. That's a Mishnah, no? Right?
Yes, but he's not in the bris of Klal Yisrael.
Okay, so he can't eat the Korban Pesach. He can't be part of Korban Pesach, but he can marry a Jewish girl. He's still able to marry a Jewish girl.
Okay, not fair. It's a good. I hear it's a good point. David, what do you want to say?
When the woman walked down the aisle, she's not married yet. So you're standing for her because she has pru revu, but she's not married.
Well, she's on her way to get married.
That's why we say.
Well, if you're gonna say that the kid is not mal, right 6 seconds before, because he's not mal.
He's on his way. Good, but he's still not a yid.
So the woman's also on her way.
Right. I hear. Well, this is a good. Well, this is a good one too. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says, okay, what about Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur is quite painful, right? So Rav Shlomo Zalman says, yeah, Yom Kippur is painful, but that's why we have a mitzvah the day before to eat, right? Again, I don't know. I don't know if Don's going to be happy with that teretz, but he says that that's why the Gemara, the Torah wants to make it easier, or et cetera, et cetera. That type of thing. Either way,
Yeah. Gemara says that a person who eats, he makes a suda erev Yom Kippur is like he fasted twice. So
right, exactly.
Really, he had twice as much,
Right. Yeah. So anyway, right. That's his point. I think that's part of his point. Either way, so Gemara right now thinks that the reason why you have to let this woman free is because she also has a chiyuv provable. The Gemara answers, no, that's not the reason. No, minik hefker no guba. The reason why they free her is because, we had this before, that it was a minik hefker, meaning because everybody was being mazana with her. Because they knew she couldn't marry a yid, she couldn't marry an eved, so she's stuck in no man's land. So the Olam did with her what they pleased, because they knew there's going to be no repercussions. So therefore, they said we got to free her to get her out of this.
Can't she marry a Eved Ivri?
She can't marry an Eved Ivri. No, I don't. I mean, as far as I know, throughout this Gemara,
no, she can't. The Chatzi Bas Chayrin can't marry an Eved Ivri.
Yeah.
What isn't that the case of?
Because he's a yid.
Isn't that the case of the Heftei Lo Niftasa?
No, that's Shivcha Charufa. That's Shivcha. I mean,
what's a Shivcha Charufa if it's not a Chatzi Shivcha Chatzi Bas Chayrin?
Well, that's the Machlokes. That's what Rabbi Shmuel
I'm saying, but according to the Shita that holds that she's allowed to marry
right? So that's yeah. So then Yanachanami. That's the Gemara.
So then why is she a hefker? She's able to marry.
No, according to that Shita, she can't get married. If she did, the marriage is a marriage. Yeah. Oh, you're right, 100%. According to that, they can't get married lechatchila. If they did, then the marriage is a marriage. Yeah, 100%.
Right. So then it's not a hefker. Go marry every.
No, but you can't do it. It's only if they did it. Right.
I thought they're allowed to.
It wasn't mashma like that on Amar Aleph.
No one holds that they're allowed to. No one holds it's mutter. That's what I was wondering before about Akiva, about your kasha before. That the Chatzi Shefra can marry an Eved. She can't. The Kiddushin is a full Kiddushin because she's also to everyone else.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back because it's a little late. Then we could try and stay on. Okay, so Zok the Mishnah. Now we change gears here. Still with Avodim, but a whole different sugya. So let's say a guy sells his Eved Kanani to a guy. Or he sells it to somebody who's going to bring that Eved out to Chutz La'aretz, Yatza ben Chayrin, the guy goes free automatically, right? Because you're not allowed to sell your Eved to a guy, because then he's not going to keep mitzvahs, and you're not allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. So Memela, because of that, this guy goes out free. And I wonder if that would still apply nowadays. I mean, now that we just go back and forth from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. Okay, obviously there's no Avodim anyways nowadays, but would that change? I don't know. So the Gemara says, if a guy sells his Evet to Rabbi Kachavim, he goes after Cheres. But Sarah gets Shichrur, may Rabbi Rishon. But he doesn't just go out. He needs to get Shichrur to allow him his freedom. That's only where he didn't write his Einai. But he writes Einai, then it's Shechrure. My Einai. What does it mean that he wrote his Einai? So Rav Sheshes, the Kasav Le Hachi. He wrote him when he sold the guy to the guy, when he sold the Evet to the guy, or he sold the Evet to the guy in Chutz La'aretz. So he says, look, when you run away, the Shetivrach Mimenu, when you run away from him, Ainli Eisibach, you have nothing to do with me. He basically told him, I'm giving you over to this guy. I'm selling you to this guy, but you could escape. And if you escape, you're done with me. You're free. You don't have to come back to me. So once he gave him that paper, that's enough. He does not have to give him the official set of papers, the official get to free him. Fine, let's just go to that. If a guy borrows money from a guy, but he says to the guy, if I don't pay you back, you get my eved. So now the question is that a sale or not? Meaning we said you're not allowed to sell a guy to a guy. You're not allowed to sell eved to a guy. This wasn't a sale. He borrowed money from the guy and he said, if I don't pay you back, you get this eved. Is that called a sale or not? So since the guy made him into a nimusai, then Yatzal Lecheres, he goes out for free because it's as if he was sold. Okay, man nimusai. What does it mean nimusai? Nashki. It means some sort of thing that they hang like a badge that they hang on the neck. Meaning, it seems like that's when a guy shows that he's taking possession of this thing, so of this mashkin. So when he shows that, so then that already that's as if he bought the eved from the Yisrael, and Mamela goes, it's as if he was sold, and therefore he goes free. So again, but the word nimusai, the Gemara is saying now is like some sort of badge. So Maser Rav Sheshes has a kasha. Arisin is a sharecropper, which is basically he gets a percentage of the work that he does for the land. Pachakiris is a renter, right? He pays rent and he gets to keep the fruits. Varise bate avos, or sharecroppers of bate avos, meaning they were grandfathered in literally that they could work these fields. So these three, and the fourth case is if an Ovid Kechavim who borrowed money from a Yid and he told the Yid, you could take this land. So now the Shaila is, who pays the Meiser? So even though the Yid made Nimusai, which is what we just discussed before, Paturam and a Meiser, it's still Pater from Meiser. Meaning because this Tana holds that when a Yid owns land in Eretz Yisrael, he does not have to give. I'm sorry, when a Goy owns land in Eretz Yisrael, he does not. There's no Trumas and Meises on it, right? Yeah. So the first three cases is a Yid with a Yid. So they're not considered like owners. So since they're not considered like owners, so therefore they don't have to take off Trumas and Meises. In the last case, we say that it's still the guys. But whatever it is, the Gemara says that what a nashki is. I'm sorry, nashki. And if you think that a nashki is that a nimusa is a nashki, is a badge, sada bas nashki, where do you put a badge onto a field? Meaning, by an eved, it makes sense. You take the badge and you put it onto the eved's neck, and then that shows that the guy is taking possession of the eved. But how do you put this onto a field? Elamar Rav Sheshes, man. So he says nimusa doesn't mean a badge. What it means is a date. You put a zman into the shtar. So Gemara says kasha zman azman, right? It says again. This Gemara is a little bit technical. It says that we have a kasha from zman azman because by the eved, right? We say that if there's a zman in there, then he goes free. But by the fields of where they have to take off meiser, right? As long as there was a zman in there, he says it's potter, which means it still belongs to the guy. So basically, does this man mean it belongs to the guy, or does it mean it belongs to the Yid? Like kasha had the matas mane, had the loy matas mane. No, one is talking about where the time was reached, meaning the guy said, "I'm lending you money, and if I don't pay you back by a certain time, so therefore you get to keep this thing." Right. So by the slave, this man already reached. So Mamela, of course, he's owned by the guy now, and then Mamela, the eved goes free. And had the loy matas mane. But the other one is somewhere where this man of the loan to be paid back didn't hit yet, so Mamela, it's still the guys. So the Gemara says, "Elagabi Eved, the matas mani tzrichel mever." You need a chiddush to say that when this man got there for the Eved, that you need to say that is that a chiddush to say that he goes free? Of course, he's owned. If the loan was up, and then that means the Eved is owned by the guy. They're both talking about where this man did not come. One is talking about for the gufs, right? Meaning by the slave, the guy was going to own the actual slave. So Mamela, it's as if the guy sold the slave and therefore he goes free. But Halapera, and one is talking about for the Paris. For the Karka, he didn't actually give him the field as the collateral. He gave him just the Paris of the field. That's one teretz on top of Aleph. By saying where you could say another teretz. We're talking about where he borrowed the money on condition that there's going to be a mashkin if he didn't pay it on time, but he never took it. Meaning the Zman reached, but he never actually came and collected on it. Right? So Memela by the Meiser, since he never collected on the Meiser, so therefore it's still his. Right? It's considered the guy's, but by the Eved, since now the Eved could actually take since the guy could actually take the Eved anytime he wants, so then we look at it as if he was sold. Okay, so those are the three tirutzim to explain the difference in the brisa. I hope that was understandable. I'm not sure if it was or wasn't.